Welcome to CCN Midday News. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, March 24th. Trump was asked whether his personal properties would benefit from a proposed $500 billion Treasury funds for distressed companies. Donald Trump's advisor, Paula White, wants money for her fake coronavirus hospital. And Black Americans were forced into social distancing long before the coronavirus. Harvey Weinstein has tested positive for the coronavirus, and a Florida woman accused of assault also coughed in a paramedic's face. Let's get to the news. President Donald Trump was asked on Sunday evening whether his hotel businesses would potentially benefit from a proposed $500 billion fund overseen by the Treasury Department to extend emergency funds to large businesses coping with the economic fallout of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. He didn't explicitly rule it out. Instead, he gave a long, rambling answer that touched on his decision to donate his salary each year and boasted about his entrepreneurial acumen. On Monday, Democrats blocked for the second time a massive $1.8 trillion stimulus bill aimed at boosting the economy that had been devastated by the coronavirus. Democrats have been strongly critical of a proposed $500 billion pot of money aimed at helping distressed companies, including major airliners and cargo carriers. They also warned that it could serve as a slush fund that disproportionately benefited large businesses, which would include Trump hotels. Democrats are seeking to impose much larger and tougher conditions on companies that accept the emergency funding, as well as ensure that the president can't direct the government's money to enrich himself. The Washington Post also reported that the president's businesses have been hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic, as his resorts in Las Vegas, Miami, Ireland, and Turnbull, Scotland are closed and likely suffering substantial losses of income. His hotels are still open in Washington and New York, but they laid off many workers. The Constitution bars the president from accepting federal money beyond their salary if Trump's businesses receive a bailout. Ethics experts say that this could raise constitutional issues. Paula White, the evangelical pastor and spiritual advisor to President Donald Trump, said that her ministry is like a hospital and is asking the people to send her money for it, except it's not for a real hospital. However, it is a hospital for the sick, for those who are spiritually sick or soul sick. She said this in an online coronavirus prayer session. White, who also leads Trump's Faith and Opportunity initiative, when asked her followers for seed money for those who espouse the so-called prosperity gospel, that typically means giving money in the belief that some form of a larger prosperity will then be returned to the giver. She said, and I quote, "Maybe you'll like to send a $91 seed, and that's just putting your faith with Psalms 91, she added. The Psalms refers to being saved from deadly pestilence and plague. White also suggested sending $9 or whatever God tells you to do, adding, don't forget, now is not the time to abandon your covenant with God. It is a time that you go deeper and stand with your pastor. To mitigate the spread of the COVID-19, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are recommending social distancing measures, avoiding mass gatherings, and maintaining at least 6 feet of distance from other people. For decades, however, Black people and Native Americans have been subject to a different kind of social distancing in America: segregation and discrimination, and also devaluing, to name a few. These policies were built on racial hierarchy, isolating Black and Indigenous people to polluters and in areas more susceptible to national disasters. History has shown that social distancing through racial housing policies, such as redlining, extracted wealth from communities of color, eliminating and cruelly buffering against the financial shock of a crisis such as today's COVID-19. Doesn't discriminate, but the U.S. policy has, in ways that now leave Black and brown people more vulnerable to the effects of the pandemic. Segregated housing and schools are a manifestation of the United States' long history of legal discrimination, which has ramifications for our current crisis. Redlining was a practice born out of the federally backed housing-owned loan corporation, which outlined areas with sizable Black populations in red ink on maps as a warning to mortgage lenders, effectively isolating Black people in areas that would suffer low levels of investment than their white counterpart. Convicted rapist Harvey Weinstein has tested positive for the coronavirus, otherwise known as the COVID-19, while in prison. An official briefed on the matter confirmed it with BuzzFeed News. Weinstein, 68, was convicted on February 24th in New York City for raping a woman and sexually assaulting another woman. The news of his positive coronavirus test was first reported by the Gazette. Weinstein was immediately taken into custody upon conviction. Before he entered New York City's jail system, he was treated at the Bellevue Hospital and was later transferred to Rikers Island prison in New York City. After his March 11th sentencing to 23 years, he was again taken to Bellevue Hospital and transferred back to Rikers as he awaited to be moved to state prison. Rikers is facing one of the country's worst reported coronavirus outbreaks, with at least 38 people testing positive as of last week. A Florida woman accused of assaulting her boyfriend also allegedly shouted, "I have the coronavirus," and coughed in the face of a paramedic. LaDonald Shaki Holmes, age 38, was arrested on March 18th after officers for the Lake County Sheriff's Office responded to a domestic violence call in Lady Lake. Holmes' boyfriend told officers that she had broken his nose after he declined to have sex with her, according to documents obtained by the Smoking Gun. The report says that Holmes is a black belt in martial arts and allegedly roundhouse kicked her boyfriend in the nose, then punched him, according to the local news. Then he left the house and called 911. Holmes was in bed when the deputies arrived on the scene, and as they attempted to arrest her, she repeatedly fell to the ground. Concerned that she might be suffering from a medical episode, the officers summoned the paramedics onto the scene. When the paramedics attempted to secure Holmes to a stretcher, she allegedly coughed in the face of one of the EMTs and shouted, "I have coronavirus." The report says that copious amounts of saliva exited Holmes' mouth and landed in the face of the paramedics. Holmes was then taken to the local hospital for evaluation, though the probable cause affidavit does not say if she did have the coronavirus. The reports also did not mention if the paramedics received an evaluation for the possible health risks. Holmes was charged with 2 felony counts of domestic battery and battery on a paramedic. Jail records show that she was released on Thursday after posting a $7,000 bond. She is scheduled to be arraigned on April 13th. And once again, thank you for watching TCN News. I am your host, Captivating Christian. And as always, be the change you want to see. If you want change, the change starts with you. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. And leave comments below. I would like to hear what you think about these stories and more. Alright, have a good day. Peace.